on mute to keep the background noise out of the chat room. When you are speaking, please turn your camera on for the sake of accessibility. The chair of the meeting should ensure everyone has an opportunity to speak if they would like. Please use the chat function so that we can acknowledge you, and we will confirm in the order that they appear in the chat. Do we have an open call to the public? Anyone want to speak? All right, moving on. I'm going to ask everybody to introduce themselves, starting with people to my left.
My name is Acacia Worsley. I am a student at NAU. Yeah.
What you're doing?
Oh, and I am working with Rachel to work on the reception event that's coming up in a couple of weeks. So we're planning that.
My name is Liz Fry. I'm also working with Acacia and Rachel, and we have another classmate named Kat who's also working with us. She couldn't be here today, but yeah, we're all really excited to put on this event and recognize all the people that have done a lot for the community.
Hi, my name is Joseph Angel Diaz Spence. I have been a part of this meeting for I don't know how many years, and it's finally good to see Rachel here at City Hall for the first time. Thank you, Rachel.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, everyone. I'm Jen Brown. I work for City of Flagstaff Public Works. I'm the Fleet Facilities Section Director.
Justin Cuevas, City of Flagstaff Public Works. I am the new solid waste manager.
I think I've sent you emails.
Probably.
Sidewalks. I think.
Yep.
We're going to be friends.
Oh, yeah.
I'm Jamie Larson. I'm Housing and Transportation Coordinator. AmeriCorps Vista at the Office of Sustainability.
Hi folks, my name's Jenny. I'm the Climate Action Section Director at the Office of Sustainability.
And then I'm going to give a shout out to Jenny and Jamie. Both of them worked on the ADUs that we did. There are some fabulous, wait till you see them. They're really cool, you guys. ADUs are accessory dwelling units for anyone that doesn't know. So I'm excited for that. And I think that comes out March 27th, right?
Yeah, we have community voting out right
Okay.
now. You can go online, vote for your favorite out of the 10, and a lot of them, yeah. And then it closes tomorrow.
Okay, Jamie just gave a shout out. If you haven't voted, you need to.
I'll put the link in the chat.
Yes, please do. All right, let's move on to micro mobility, and I'm going to welcome again Jamie and Christopher, right?
Jenny.
And Jenny.
Awesome. Yeah. So we're here to talk about micromobility. So this is just a preliminary discussion to talk about if we want to allow micromobility business to operate in Flagstaff. So, okay.
Slowly, but sure.
I'm gonna swap these so you guys can see a little bit better.
Thank you, Susie.
That might help.
All right. If we can go to the agenda. So we'll be talking about what is micromobility, why micromobility is important, as well as discussing some of our peer city research and looking into micromobility options here in Flagstaff. Next slide. Awesome. So yeah, this is just a preliminary discussion to talk about if we're going to allow them to come in Flagstaff, because the current code does say that they are allowed to come in. And our most recent effort ended in 2020. We did have a request for a proposal process with the operator Gotcha. However, COVID happened and the world changed, micromobility changed, and they broke the contract. So since then, the code has remained the same, or they are allowed to come here, and operators are reaching out and seeking to come to Flagstaff. So we're trying to explore whether we should keep that code the same and allow them to come, or change it where we prohibit micromobility to come. Next slide. So some of the micromobility shared basics. So micromobility is these public shared modes of transportation like e-bikes, e-scooters. They are publicly available. They use the public right of way and are often used for short-term use, such as going to bus stop, to work, or just kind of making these shorter trips. Next slide. So why micromobility? We have pointed out these 6 different ways that micromobility is really important. First, for climate action, it does reduce greenhouse gas emissions. There was a study that indicated micromobility trucks offset about 81 million pounds of carbon emissions in 2023. It also will help reduce congestion and traffic within Flagstaff. It promotes physical activity. reduces parking needs, encourages eco-friendly tourism, as well as affordability. The average mid-sized car costs about $12,000 to operate a year, while micromobility is about $100 to $300 annual cost. So there are several of our city planning documents that support micromobility share. So active transportation indicates the need for enhancing mobility choices. The regional transportation master plan indicates the need for expanding energy efficient modes of transportation. Metro Plan Stride Forward also indicates the need to decrease vehicle miles traveled, as well as carbon neutrality plan, indicating the need to decrease greenhouse gas emissions, reduce the dependence on driving, and also specifically indicates launching a new micromobility share program. So here is a map of the current bus systems. The brownish areas indicate places that have asked for increased service of buses. However, the road networks are not conducive to having buses go in those areas. So this is where micromobility comes in. It could really help connect people from their homes to public transportation. So 64% of riders use shared micromobility devices to connect to transit. So it does show a positive relationship between micromobility and transit. So with that, I'll pass it to Jenny.
Thank you so much. Folks, again, I'm Jenny. I'm with the Sustainability Office, and I do want to acknowledge this is a project that we're working on with our friends in transportation, with Mountain Line and Metro Plan, as well as with city staff across the organization. And just to give you all a little bit of timeline too, we started this conversation on really micromobility, as Jamie said, back in 2018, really. We had a couple stops and goes, and we've restarted it now with our council last month in early February. We kind of took this to them as really just a primer to say, hey, council, we want to start this conversation. We have a lot of people to talk to, but we want to come to you first. And they said, absolutely, go talk to folks. And so this presentation is really just the start of a conversation. We have a lot of information today. I'm also aware you all have a lot on the agenda today too. And so I just want to say, like, we're going to go through a bunch of stuff, but we can come back at any time. I know that this is a really important conversation. And so I just want to put that out there while we're here, just to say, like, if you all want to keep talking about this, absolutely, we'll come back. We are in no way sort of kind of like ready to go right now, right? This is just part of an engagement process. So just wanted to throw that out there before I got into it. I am going to talk a little bit about kind of how micromobility share operates in other cities, as well as how it has operated in the past in Flagstaff. So there are a couple different micromobility share models, and the first is really city operated. And so this is where a city, New York City, Chicago, DC, they come in and they say, we want to bring in micromobility share and invest in this system and kind of partner with a group to bring them in, and they own the bikes. The other model, and this is the most common model today, is third-party operated, where a third party, normally a company, operates micromobility share. This is the very common throughout the United States and the world today, but particularly for smaller cities that don't have millions of dollars to pour into a system, this is sort of the model that Flagstaff would use if we were to move forward with welcoming micromobility businesses back to Flagstaff. In terms of peer cities, these things are everywhere. So if you go somewhere and you see maybe there's scooters, maybe there's bikes, some have like sit on scooters now, actually, that is a strange hybrid between a bike and a scooter. They are pretty well across the United States. They're more likely to show up in larger cities, but they are also very common in small cities, very common in really all of our peer cities. Generally have a system. College towns absolutely have a system as well. So there's a lot of this happening. In terms of our peer cities. This is really, the graph on the left really just shows how many scooters are available. We're talking in the hundreds range. We're not talking thousands, right? We're talking maybe 200. When Flagstaff had bikes in the past, I think we had about 200 bikes that came in 2018. We would probably be in that lower range. Logan, Utah, Lubbock, Texas, St. George, Utah, 200, 250. That's kind of what we would probably likely see with a city of our size. And on the right, it just has sort of the growth in these systems. The orange bars are scooters. So we are talking about, when we talk about micromobility, we're talking about bikes and scooters, as well as really the broader definition, as Jamie said, includes things like one wheels and things like that. But what we see most often in our peer cities is scooter systems. In terms of our peer cities, we have done a lot of sort of outreach to them to try to understand how much money are you putting into this and how much staff time are you putting into it. And things aren't free, right? We know that we will need to put in staff time if we move forward with this. It's what our peer cities are doing. In terms of financial investment, most cities aren't needing to put anything into the startup of these systems because they're run by a third-party operator. And some cities are actually getting paid by the operators to operate in their city. In terms of Flagstaff's prior experience here, we had a 6-month pilot with a company named Spin. This was in 2018. You may remember the orange bikes. There's a lot of talk about the orange bikes around town. And it was a really good start. It was a really good trial. We saw thousands and thousands of trips being made and thousands of miles being ridden on these bikes. And so for us, that says there's a need here, right? People were using it. They're paying money to use these bikes. Clearly, it's filling a gap. And so our question is, what gap is that, right? And what gap needs to be filled? Because that's why we as a city are interested in this, is it shows that there's interest in folks meeting their transportation needs. All right. I think I'm passing back to Jamie.
Yeah, so now we'll go over some of the risks considered and strategies, and in sake of time, I'm going to go over these kind of quickly. But we can always come back to one if you guys want to talk about it. So Metro Plan Mountain Line created a feasibility report which outlines these risks and strategies. So first we have personal injury, both to the person riding the device as well as the jurisdiction in which the injury occurred. So some of the strategies for this could be, partnering with local bike shops for helmet rentals, as well as having the rider sign liability forms. Next, device parking. So blocking sidewalks, ADA access, or limited bike parking. One strategy for this would be geofencing, which is kind of like programming the bike to only be allowed to park in certain areas, or doing pricing incentives where people, get $1 off their ride if they park it in an area that we want them to park it in. Limited staff time for oversight. So this is managing the vendor as well as the complaints that come in. So this could include hiring new staff to be able to oversee the system, or AmeriCorps members to work on this project. Next is public perception, because change is hard and it's definitely going to add to the landscape of our downtown areas. So developing a marketing campaign, working with the Downtown Business Alliance Association. Also, the City of Austin has a database where they have monthly community chats to discuss the issues and highlight the benefits of micromobility to kind of help mitigate the public perception. So compliance with bike ordinances. So these infrastructure tough spots, incentivizing poor compliance. So one of the strategies, again, geofencing, where we can program the bike to slow down in certain areas or to just shut off completely if they're going to an area that we don't want micromobility to go into. These are some of the medium impact risks. So we have, it turned off. Oh, fun.
I can see it on my end. So.
It's still on Teams.
It is. Yeah.
He pretty much is.
Oh, and it's so strange because it's not even. Give us 1 second, folks online. I wonder, Stacy, can you?
I'm gonna swap screen.
Yeah.
See if that will
Yeah, I
work.
was gonna say that might do it.
I'll just send a quick note.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
We'll just have to shift.
Yeah. Sorry, folks.
So some of these medium impact risks identified in the feasibility study is viability of the company, the bikes taking over existing racks, sign code restrictions. So like trying to not rely on advertisement through signs, weak points in infrastructure, as well as taking into consideration equity for low-income individuals who may be wanting to use this, which leads us into our next slide for equity considerations. So, not all people have a card to pay with these devices. So having either cash payment options or even having subsidies or different pricing options for people, as well as bringing in different types of bikes to be inclusive to all users and transportation options. And then going into what this will look like for Flagstaff. So we made a little flow chart indicating these different pathways we can take. So either we decide, no, we do not want micromobility share, which will entail changing the code to prohibit micromobility, or we say, yes, we do want micromobility. And then we have the two options of doing a request for proposals, allowing one vendor or permitting multiple vendors.
Thank you so much, Jamie. So I'm going to wrap us up and then we'll have time for questions and discussion. Just to kind of make really clear what the city responsibilities would be versus an operator responsibility. In some ways, if we allow micromobility share companies to come into Flagstaff, and this is really to come into Flagstaff again, it would in some ways be like a rental car company, right? The city is not responsible for the devices, right? It wouldn't be responsible for, payment, right? Collecting payment, working with customers, et cetera. But what the city is obviously really concerned with is ensuring that the company would be following its contract, right, with the city, and also ensuring that we're not breaking the law or increasing safety risk, right? So that comes to like block sidewalks, right? If we're seeing, oh, there's scooters and block sidewalks all over the place, right? That obviously becomes a city concern, right? And so in some ways, the city's responsibility really is that contract enforcement and kind of enforcing that these things are operated in a safe manner, right? And that is why, there's a lot of, I think, from the city's perspective, there's a lot of benefit to having a contractor with just one vendor, right? Because then it allows us to say, hey, you all aren't following this, right? Like we can remove that permit essentially. Some cities don't have a permit system. They just allow anybody to come in. That has not been the feedback that we've received at any point, right? I think that, council, based on their initial feedback and based on folks that we've heard from, folks want this to be something that we control, right? That we have, that we're keeping a close eye on, I guess. Makes sense. So that is really where we see, if a company was going to come into Flagstaff, where the city wouldn't be in control of the bikes, it wouldn't be in the financial transaction, but it would probably have a contract with the operator and be able to hold that permit. And that permit could be revoked if for some reason it wasn't compliant with the contract. In terms of implementation steps, we are right here at the very beginning of the engagement stage. We are not anywhere really close to kind of going into a permit process. What we're doing is we're trying to talk to as many folks in the community that we can. That includes this commissions, we'll have a public survey, and then we're going to use all of that information we get from stakeholders and build a recommendation for action. And then we will return to council. That will probably be this fall, maybe, right? Where we say, this is what we heard from everyone. And so we will take the feedback we receive here today, as well as just conversations that we continue over probably the next 6 months. Once we go back to council, if council says we would like you to move forward, then we would open up a procurement process or a permit process to essentially ask companies to propose to come in, and have, if council wants us to have safeguards around that, then we would put those in place through that process. In terms of engagement, this is a very big list of all the commissions that we're talking to, as well as city divisions. We're talking with our friends in Public Works, but as well as our friends in Parks and Rec and risk management, engineering, legal, et cetera. We also have a lot of regional partners we're working with. So that is the Downtown Business Alliance, FUSD, Chamber of Commerce, the county, ADOT. We're trying to basically talk to everybody that we can. In terms of seeking direction, we would truly love y'all's input. We have a couple questions to start this conversation, but we are completely open to, again, coming back at either, a later time or now. But, to kind of just ask, what do you all think about this? Do you think that this is a good thing for our community in general, but also specifically for the smaller communities that you're a part of and the smaller groups that you're a part of? And then the next question is, what special considerations do you think we should incorporate into the procurement process? As Jamie mentioned, we ran a procurement process in 2019 for this. And we asked for very specific things. We asked for a certain number of bikes to actually be tricycles to allow more equitable access, right? Not everyone can ride a bike. We know that. Not everyone can ride a trike either, but probably more people can ride a trike than can a bike, right? And so allowing trikes, there are some other ADA kind of accessible things like a hand cycle, things like that. Providing special rates or free passes for low-income community members, geofencing to keep bikes off of sidewalks, to keep bikes out of where we want them to not be parked. And then a fee structure if like there are bikes or scooters left on the sidewalk. What is the penalty so that we can make sure that we are, there's a financial cost to that behavior so that we're seeing less of it. So that is just a list of things that we asked for last time in 2019. We'll probably ask for similar things, but we really want to know, like, are there special things that you all would want to see as part of this? And then finally, what we're asking everyone is what steps could the city or operator take to ensure equitable access? So we've got 2 other slides. One is just that we have a community survey. It's coming soon. It's not up yet. We're hoping it'll be up in mid-April for Earth Day. We'll have it there. It'll be up for a while. And then we've got contact info, but I want to go back to this and kind of just open it up and mostly just say first, thank you for your time.
Thanks, Jen. Thanks, Jamie. I do have a couple of comments, questions. And you answered a lot of what ADA considerations, you've taken that. And then price consideration. Have you considered, I know for paratransit, we go through an extensive process and then we get certified. I think it's on a yearly basis, but have you considered trying to reach out or work with Mountain Line so that the individuals that are qualified for paratransit then could possibly use the ADA devices that you like? You'll have to take into some consideration that there are other citizens that will need to use it, but perhaps, this commission can help you guys come up with maybe another way to make sure that it's not just people that just want to ride a trike.
Right. That makes perfect sense. Mountain Line is a partner in this group. We have sort of a small working group that includes Mountain Line, Metro Plan, NAU in the city. And so we will bring that up. It's a really elegant solution because we've talked about this. We've talked about, okay, if we do have these different types of devices, right, how could someone use it? But that's a really, I think, elegant solution to use what we already have in terms of that qualification.
And I don't know, Mountain Line, it seems like would be amicable to opening up those rules to you. The other thing is we're given a card that we can use on the fixed route systems. And maybe there can be like a QR code or something that citizens can register through City Hall and get that card if they're not part of paratransit.
Right.
So that sort of thing.
Okay. And can I ask, does that card give free rides for the fixed route system?
It does.
Okay.
And for one person, but that wouldn't be applicable here.
Right. Okay.
And then the other thing is I would like to invite you back when you have all of this more kind of cemented in, invite you back so that we can have discussions about the ADA portion and maybe late this fall. Because it sounds like you guys are going to be really busy. So
we're having a lot of conversations. Chair, could I ask you just to expand on, because I want to make sure we're talking about the same thing when we say ADA access.
Yeah.
And I think I know what that means and thinking about sidewalks and thinking about different things, but could I just ask you to expand on sort of concerns or thoughts you have there?
I think the equipment is a big thing. Tricycles seem to be really good. But in thinking about that, you're going to have citizens that walk with a cane.
Yep.
We walk with a walker. The solution for our power chairs is that we just get these little hooks that hang on the back of the seat. And so considering mobility devices that have to go with the person if they're going to rent the bike. for this, whatever they're renting. So that sort of thing. And then I think that's it. I know I'll have commissioners that have other questions, so. Do I see any other hands up? Russ, I do see your hand up.
Hey, thank you. This is Russ. I'm kind of interested in I think I heard the sit-down scooters. Are those a real thing?
Did you hear him? Russ, repeat that, please.
Yeah, I'm kind of interested in hearing more about the potential for having sit-down scooters.
Sit down scooters.
Sit down scooter. Yes, thank you, Russ, for that. I've seen these in other cities and some companies offer them just automatically. Jamie, I don't know if you could find a picture of one. Essentially, it is a scooter that can be sat on. It's got sort of a little pedestal in the middle of it with a seat there. And I have heard that, I think folks don't think about it a lot. I have heard like, oh yeah, scooters are an accessibility device, right? If you can't walk this far, can you get on a scooter? Not accessibility with a capital A probably, right? But I have seen these sit down scooters promoted as sort of an even better idea because more folks can use that if they can sit down and go on it. So Jamie's got a picture, and I think she's going to put it in the chat. So, but yeah, that I know that companies are offering them sometimes just automatically, like across their whole fleet. I believe I saw some in Washington, D.C. But Jamie can add one in the chat, and we'll get you a picture there.
I think it's good for inclusivity, but I would worry about elderly people and their balance. But it sounds like you have the solution of having the trikes. So mobility, I mean, what am I trying to say? It's always, what is it called? Falling over.
Yes.
Is always a consideration for mobility people.
I can.
Russ, do I see your hand still up?
No, it needs to go down.
Okay.
Thank
Any
you.
other commissioners have questions?
Rashira's got her hand up.
Rashira, go ahead.
Hi, this is Rochelle Dobson speaking. I just had a quick question about the name micromobility. Is that like a set in stone name of the project or what you all are trying to do? Because I'm just thinking, would there be confusion? Because when I hear mobility, I automatically think towards accessibility and disability, and if that would be confusing, like for community members. And just kind of thinking that through to make sure if there are other e-bikes or scooters that are specifically for people with disabilities, that we maybe add that as a specific distinction in what we're naming it.
Thank you so much, Commissioner Dobson. I am always grateful for this group, but I am especially grateful for that. That is not a perspective that we had. And so I really appreciate that. We have sort of just called it micromobility share because that is what the industry uses. And it's sort of a catch-all term for what we think we could end up with, right? Whether that's bikes or scooters or trikes or et cetera. I really appreciate that sort of framing. I think that this is not a name that's set in stone. Again, it's really just what we've been using as we start to do this engagement. But I think no matter what, from now on, we'll start to kind of use a little bit more explainer there to make that clear. And I may reach out to you for some advice on other kind of ways to call this, because I agree, like mobility is often used in a different way.
Jen, would it be okay if our commissioners reached out to you with possible names?
I would so appreciate that.
All right, commissioners, you have a job. All right.
Thank you.
Hand up. No. All right. Thanks, ladies. I appreciate you so much. I am looking forward to seeing what happens with this personally.
Thank you so
So
much.
it would be nice to leave Jazzy at home and be able to jump on a bike and go somewhere. Take me back.
Thank you all so much for the time.
Thank you. All right, we are going to move on to changes to solid waste operations with Jen and Justin. Thank you.
Well, we're here really just to give you some updates on some of the changes that we have done. We've had a lot of change through our leadership. So we currently do have a vacancy of a solid waste director position. So myself and Sam Beckett, who you met, I believe, about a month and a half ago. We are kind of tag teaming this position and doing it together. And then we got really lucky and hired Justin to move over from streets to solid waste. So he has a lot of experience and knowledge and comes with a lot of leadership as well. So during that, we've decided that we needed to do a little bit of a change. We needed to work on our budget for the solid waste. And with that came some major changes to the bulky program. I'm not sure if you had heard, but we did change that to be 4 times a year, where before we were doing it every 5 weeks. So those are the changes that we've made. I know that there has been some concerns as far as what does that do for folks that are doing the bulky, and they want to continue on of just leaving their bulky waste at the sidewalks. So those are some concerns, but we do have people looking out for that. We have Justin to go and the supervisors to go and talk to the homeowners and let them know, hey, this is what we're doing. We've also increased our communication. So we are using a platform called Constant Contact. What that does is it emails folks, lets them know what we've done as far as change wise, if there's schedule changes, and then also increased our website quite a bit as far as putting as much information out there without it being too much, right? So, because sometimes too much information, it just all gets lost in the weeds, or in the trash, so to speak. So, yeah, so those are a couple of the changes that we have made. I'll go ahead and I'm sure I've missed something, but I'll let you add to it, and then we'll take any questions and concerns that you guys have.
Is it still code compliance that's going to be enforcing solid waste?
Yeah.
Has Reggie taken into consideration how much this could, because I know for us, it's been a huge issue with bulk waste being left on the sidewalks. And so is code compliance ready for the amount of bulk trash that is now going to sit? Because I know that homeowners are like, oh, they're coming in 5 weeks. I'm going to put it out 4 weeks before it comes. But now we're looking at every 3 months. So, they're responsible for keeping it on their property. It doesn't mean they will.
So that's been a big push for us, big communication. We've been monitoring it with the supervisors as well, making sure that they know the problem addresses. We fortunately have not seen those big piles being set on the sidewalks in advance, where we're going into our 4th month of this change. We have not seen those issues arise yet. It's something that we're closely monitoring. I'm out in the field usually a couple hours before my shift to check on those things, or I'm afterwards. I also have my supervisors doing the same thing to make sure that if we do identify problem addresses, that either code enforcement or myself is contacting them and educating them, because the policies have not changed. They're the same policies we've had. Code enforcement only has 2 personnel, so we supplement with our personnel to kind of help increase that messaging. We're also working with sustainability to increase that education on what the people are supposed to be doing, what they're supposed to put out, what they're not supposed to put out. That has been the big shift, and the big education thing is the program has gotten out of hand with people just putting any and every item they can out there. And now that we have consistency in the leadership realm as far as solid waste goes, we're going to be increasing that standard to the community.
I know one of the things that I was concerned about when we first started working on bulky pickup in this commission is people are putting their refrigerators out and leaving the doors on. Are you guys using the hang tags and the stickers and stuff that code compliance has?
So we have hang tags as well
Okay.
that have the policy on them. If we have those addresses that do that, we hang a tag on it, we let them know. And we also have our supervisor who's on the route checking when the bulk is going. They take pictures, they send us the addresses. And if code compliance is too busy, I'll take the lead and I'll make the phone calls and educate those residents on what they're supposed to be doing, rather than just letting the hanger hoping they read it. I'll actually make contact and make sure they understand what they're supposed to be doing.
Ooh, I'm glad you are aboard.
There you go.
So it's a little bit different of a program for solid waste, and I've only been in it for about 6 months, but there's things that need to be done, and that's the big part and the big push is consistency and standards.
We are looking forward to it. I'm telling you. All right, any other commissioners have questions for Justin or Jen? Russ, go ahead.
Hi, this is Russ Randall. Is there actually code enforcement happening, or is it just code compliance education?
So that is more of a piece that Reggie and them would be able to speak to. There is very limited enforcement action they can do. As far as the fines and such go, it's a very murky situation for them to get into the legal aspects. It draws it out for years on end if they do get into the fining portion, and it's not very easy for them to do. So we try and have those very stern and honest conversations from our end. There is a financial aspect if the piles are too big that don't meet the standard, they are charged. So there is a financial hit to those residents if they're not complying. There are financial pieces that we tie in as kind of this is what happens if you don't follow the guidelines that are given in place. We kind of hit them on the solid waste side for that. So that way there's a little bit of punishment, but we're limited as well on what we can do.
Right, anyone else?
Yeah, real quick. So the commissioner that had actually kind of requested this brought forward some questions. Unfortunately, he had a family emergency and isn't able to be here. Are you okay if I provide maybe some email contact that he can reach out if he's got specific questions? Okay, I will do that. Thank you.
Anyone else? All right, Justin and Jen, thank you very, very much. I really look forward to seeing this. You know, I live in an area where I live on Solier. So I live in an area where bulk trash is not a deal. But now that I have my jazzy chair, I'm out a lot. So
Now you're talking. Now you're
I might show up at your house, Joseph. So I look forward to seeing what's going on. Thank you very, very much and welcome aboard.
Thank you.
We look forward to hearing more from you.
Oh, yeah, I'll be in contact. I'll give you guys my cards before I leave.
Awesome. Thank you.
Of course.
All right, moving on, we are going to switch our action items. We're going to do consideration and possible action on award event nominations. And I am going to let Acacia and Liz kind of take this over because they've been doing the planning and they've been doing a fabulous job. So go ahead, ladies.
Thank you, Rachel. Hi, everyone. Just to kind of introduce us again and what we're doing. I'm Liz, this is Acacia, and we're super excited to, like I said earlier, recognize the members in the community who have done a lot to help the inclusion in the Flagstaff area. And we selected to help with this event because, well, for me personally, I feel like it's important to celebrate these kinds of things and these kinds of people that don't necessarily always get a lot of recognition. And it's important that they do get recognized, I feel, to encourage more of the actions that we're celebrating and more of the things that we want to recognize. I do want to remind everyone to please RSVP to the event. We've sent out the RSVP evites and stuff. Please remember to do that because we need those RSVPs. I also would like to remind everyone that nominations to nominate people for certificates and awards, they have closed at this time. We aren't accepting any more nominations. But I'd also like to talk about what the event is going to be, what it's going to look like. We're going to provide hors d'oeuvres, little appetizers for everyone. We're working on the catering, securing that. We're also going to have a folklorico performance, a dance performance from the local Flagstaff folklorico team. And that's going to be out in the lobby. The food's going to be put in the this room. And yeah, we're going to hand out certificates. And I'm not sure what to call that big room over there.
The chambers.
Yeah, the chambers. The chambers is where the certificates are going to be handed out. I
How many RSVPs do we have from commissioners?
And last I checked, I believe it was 8 or 9.
From just commissioners?
Correct.
There's
I
only
can
7
double-
of us, please.
Okay, never mind. Let
And
me
I'll
check
look
that
at
real
it really quick. I think there's only 3 of us that have RSVP'd.
Let me see real quick.
And then I'm gonna throw this in there. As you RSVP, can you let us know if there's gonna be a +1? And at this point in time, we're only taking a +1, not a +2 or 3, just for the sake of the catering and the space provided. But we really need those RSVPs from those who have received the RSVP invite already. All right, go ahead.
So we have 4. So we have 4 RSVPs from commissioners so far. So we'd really like to have those RSVPs in as soon as possible for you guys, just so we can plan accordingly. The sooner we get it, the better.
And I do have a question about AV materials for the folklorico team. As far as like speakers and things like that, they do need a sound system, and I was wondering if that was something that the council could provide, or if that was something we have access to.
We don't have a sound system for our lobby. We do have a sound system in the chambers.
Okay.
If somebody's got maybe portable speakers that, I mean, we have electricity, so we can plug stuff in, but we don't have a standalone.
I would bet that Folklorico
System.
Ballet does.
Okay.
Reach out to her.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Write that down. Write that down.
Write that in.
All right.
What else?
And yeah, is there any questions that anyone has about this event or what's going on with it? Anything that I'd like to open it up to everyone else and see what you guys think about it.
Susan, I see you put, I just did. Thank you. No questions from commissioners? Russ, go ahead.
Just a big thank you, ladies, for putting this together for us.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, we're
Yeah.
happy. It's been fun.
Yeah, super excited.
Kind of awesome. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, of
And the
course.
really cool thing is these girls have been going back. Susan is teaching the class, so they meet every Tuesday and Thursday. And the girls did a presentation last week.
We haven't done the presentation yet. That's actually afterwards.
Yeah.
Somebody that is in the class that is working on a different event is actually going to come and help serve
Oh, yes.
the night of the event.
Yeah.
The volunteer.
So
We-
I'm loving the camaraderie that I'm seeing. I'm in love with all of this.
Yeah, we pitched the event to the class and we asked for volunteers and stuff, and we already have. Yeah, Susan just said we did it. Yeah, we did a volunteer pitch, and we got so far 1 volunteer, and we're asking around to a couple other classes, getting people to help set up and break down. But yeah, again, we're just all super excited. It's all coming together, and
It's been fun.
yeah, it has.
Sarah, I see that you RSVP'd. Thank you. You're a warrior.
Thank you, Sarah.
The other thing is Stacy, parking for the event. Is it okay to park in the big parking lot, the west parking lot?
Yes.
That's a.
From me.
Yeah.
Can you remind me the start time?
Yes, 4, 3, 3.
3, because I know
3 to
after
6.
5, it's free to park in the west parking lot.
So commissioners can get a commissioner tag, right?
Yeah, commissioners can park in the spaces that are across the street from City
Okay,
Hall
the
in
small
Wheeler
parking
Park.
Okay.
They can park there. Also, the accessible spots are also permitted. Let me check with Park Flag on
Okay.
the west lot.
Okay. So we will get an email sent out to both commissioners and nominees about what the parking situation will look like, so nobody's getting ticketed while we're enjoying ourselves.
Last thing we need. Right?
Yeah,
Truly, truly.
Yeah, and I know that I have some validation opportunities. I just want to make sure I follow all the rules. So I will get back to you via email what that looks like.
What else, ladies?
I think it was just one other question. We wanted to double check
we're still the time to get here and start setting up is 2, correct? That's when we would have access to the building and everything.
You'll have access to the building, absolutely. Let me see what I've reserved this room for.
Do you guys want any help? Like any help?
Yeah, we might. Yeah.
Do you guys want any like help?
Yeah, we might need help like setting up the decorations, putting things up. Like the balloon arch is one thing that we were kind of worried about, like blowing up all the balloons and setting them on the arch, tying them in, and things like that. But yeah, that's also why we're going to our peers and
Yeah.
asking for volunteers. And
Oh, yeah.
it's also we're kind of excited because it's
Yeah.
we're providing like kind of like an extra credit opportunity to some of our like friends in other classes, and it's
Yeah.
but
You should have enough volunteers to be able to help. We really just want you to
Yeah, I got you.
really enjoy it. So
Yeah,
I
just
think
have
we
a good
should
time.
have,
Can you remind me the date again?
yeah, it's April 11th. And it's going to be at 3 is the event. So we really just want you to come and enjoy the snacks and the performance and everything. We should be pretty set on volunteers to help us. I really appreciate you
Yeah.
offering though.
yeah.
I might be able to schedule a paratransit ride for them to pick me up and take me over.
That's awesome. We look forward to seeing you there.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Oh yeah.
Absolutely.
Let's go.
All right. Any questions from commissioners? If not, we have 5, and I'm sure that Keith is coming. So that's 6. So we are missing out, Rashir. I think we're just missing out on you. And we look forward to seeing all of you. We do have a bunch of nominees that will be notified shortly as soon as Stacy can take a minute. But we look forward to seeing you, and the girls definitely, or the ladies definitely, are looking forward to meeting each and every one of you. So thank you, ladies.
And I can.
Thank you.
Yeah, I can also email Rachel and be like, hey, I'm coming to the.
All right, let's move on to our next action item, and that is the discussion and possible action regarding accessibility expeditions and audits. Recommendation of support for barrier-free Flagstaff expeditions. And Susan, I am going to ask you to lead this conversation, please.
Sorry, I couldn't find all my buttons and the letter again. Would like to invite Russ to discuss the letter if he is capable. I saw that you're in a vehicle, so I'm not sure if you are capable at this time to discuss the letter.
I am in a vehicle, so my internet is intermittent at best. Is Keith Becker not there?
No, he had a
he's
family.
not.
Oh, that's too bad. How about Elida? Is Elida there?
I don't believe she is either.
Okay, well, hopefully my internet will hold. At the last meeting, I was asked, at our last commission meeting, I was asked to draft a letter of support for BFF that potentially could go from the commission to the city council. In the letter, which I think you all have seen, I explain a little bit about what accessibility expeditions are. And basically, we're just asking for the city council to kind of support the endeavors of BFF.
Did everybody get a chance? Go ahead, Susan.
That's exactly what I was going to ask. Have all the commissioners have an opportunity to review the letter?
Yes. If you have, can you put your hand up in the chat or unmute yourself and just say yes?
Yes.
Yes, I've
I-
reviewed the letter.
Yeah, I've done a flyover, but I wanted to read it again and my meeting schedule hasn't allowed.
Okay.
And I have reviewed it.
Great.
So the only feedback that I have on the letter is that the specific mentioning of where the BFF group wants to conduct the accessibility expeditions. I would suggest that that is potentially just broadened to say throughout the city of Flagstaff and not necessarily focus on city of Flagstaff or city facilities, I should say.
I think we lost her. She's glitching.
Yeah, and actually, oh, this is Russ. And I think it does say throughout the community, actually, in the letter.
Yeah, it says specifically at city facilities and throughout the community. I would remove city facilities and just leave throughout the community.
Works for me.
I also would suggest, and this is going to be more open for conversation, discussion, and potential vote, that we write a letter from the commission that supports two things. One, the city facilities or the city of Flagstaff should be focusing on putting together a transition plan for ADA compliance. And part of that transition plan is training all facility or training city officials on how to conduct their own internal accessibility audits and come up with an actual plan for addressing all of the identified areas of need for improvement. And part of that plan would also include putting together a very specific a group for that transition plan that would potentially include members from this commission, but members from the Barrier-Free Flagstaff or other interested individuals from the community and city officials. Oh, Rashira, the letter is at the very bottom of our PDF agenda. So if you scroll past the actual agenda, you'll see any additional attachments for our meetings. So I just want to open that up, that we may want to really continue to encourage the city to get an identified ADA coordinator, an identified transition plan for improving city facilities and public spaces, really consciously put together a website that talks about ADA, has documentation, and that we potentially model this off of some of our the cities that we demographically or geographically relate to. So like Bend, Oregon, or Colorado Springs, even the city of Austin, Texas, has a great similar kind of system to the city of Flagstaff. So, but Russ, I see your hand up.
Yes, Susan, I completely agree. I think when Rachel and Keith and I met with the city manager, we perhaps learned what things our city is lacking with regards to accessibility and transitioning. So I completely agree. I would love to see this commission perhaps take a more proactive role in encouraging the city to bring that about.
Thank you, Russ. Rashira?
Oh, I was putting in the comments. I did see the letter. Thank you. And I like what you're saying about kind of providing that that documentation, and some things I have seen other disability organization use is something called the Disability Equity Index. And so perhaps like when we're developing or the the advocacy group is developing this kind of documentation, because I think sometimes the word compliance, it scares people, and it has like a negative connotation. So something that we can like, maybe, I'm really big on language just because we want to make sure language is friendly and accessible, like a disability equity index in which um, corporations or companies in the city of Flagstaff can say like, hey, we have a disability equity sticker to say that we are a disability friendly business or whatever like that. And then providing like maybe some markers to which to achieve that. So it's not more so on the level of compliance, because if you get dinged on compliance, then that's like a financial issue that I think many businesses are scared of. So maybe making it more of an inclusivity thing, but us knowing on the back end that it is a compliance kind of issue as well, but maybe not saying that upfront. So we're not like scaring people away, if that makes sense. And I can find that body of research or that model that some organizations, and I can be happy to send that to the different commissioners as well.
Rashira, would you send that to Stacy or Georgiana? If you put more than two other people in your email, we have a quorum. And all of our emails are public, can be accessed with a FOIA request. And so we want to make sure that we're doing it the right way, sending it to Stacy first.
Okay, yeah, sure, I
And
can do that.
And I'd like to just clarify that that would be really helpful information for the barrier-free Flagstaff group to be aware of, and the use of the language around expedition is for that purpose, to be very approachable to organizations that small businesses, corporations, groups in the community. The state ADA coordinators met a few weeks ago or a week ago. Time is, I don't know if anybody else has experienced this, but it feels like it's going very quickly. So trying to remember dates. But the push within ADA coordinators and those positions is really to make sure that city government organizations, particularly municipalities, get these transition plans identified and started within the larger federal landscape of ADA and potential changes that may be coming. And then Welcomed Here, my nonprofit, does encourage people to be looking at that disability equity index to help try to have a percentage in the town that, of organizations that actually are meeting some of those disability equity elements so that we can, as a city, indicate that we are a disability equity community. But we're not there yet. So that will be helpful information. Stacy, did you want to make a comment?
If you don't, yeah, please. So Rashira, if you can send that information as Rachel said directly to me. I noted in the chat, we as a city already participate in the Municipal Equality Index. Now this focuses a little bit more on the LGBTQ friendly community, if you will, but I think that this is something that really could go hand in hand with that. We do an annual presentation to the council, Municipal Equality Index, and they have a very predetermined kind of calculation on how we fit into that. And so I'm curious to see if this disability equity index is kind of in a similar vein. Because I think when we go through that exercise each year, this may be another area that we can include as part of that. So I think that will be really good. Did you want to jump in?
I do. I'm wondering how the commission feels about possibly looking at the Municipality Equality Index and then also looking at the Disability Equity Index, comparing them, and then coming back with some discussion more about all of this at a separate time from expeditions and auditions. I think that that would be vitally important. The other thing that we need to think about of as a commission, do we want to advocate the audits, or are we looking at more sending a letter for expeditions?
And,
Yeah.
and I see Russ's hand is up and, but I wanted to maybe comment on that if that's okay. There's been a little bit of confusion, I think still, I mean, I will admittedly say that I'm still struggling a little bit with the differentiation between an audit and an expedition. And I know from an internal city perspective, there's still some confusion there as well. I think there might be some benefit, if I'm hearing right, that focusing in on city facilities and the training that goes into our audit function was part of what we had talked about, I think, last month and the month before. And getting Jen connected as our facilities section director, and her commitment to working with her staff to do that training, to get them up to speed on things to look at, so that they can partner in and do their own audits. I think the other component to this, and I think Rachel, Russ, and Keith, when they met with the city manager, there was some clarification that the city's ADA coordinator is our risk manager. We've been in transition. Our human resources department has also been in some transition, but I have learned today that they just concluded interviews on our new risk manager. They finished those on Friday, so now we're at a space where they're looking at bringing them in. But I think actually having a new risk manager coming in at this time provides a really good opportunity for the commission to engage with them right out the chute and try to find where we can make this partnership work with audits, not only from a risk management ADA coordinator perspective, but how that works hand in hand with our facilities team, all of our facilities employees, that they are trained, that they know what they're looking for, and then start to coordinate formal audits of city facilities on a predetermined schedule that allows them, those facilities, to kind of prepare and be ready for that type of audit. What I'm hearing and what I'm a little concerned about is the overlap between the expeditions and the audits. They both have a very distinct function. They have a very necessary function, and all good things. But I'm a little bit concerned that we're gonna have some overlap in those two processes that, and I'm only speaking from a city perspective, community perspective is very different, but that we're gonna end up with two similar but different exercises being done, which may either cause some confusion, some frustration in terms of timing. As we all know, it does take a little bit of time to run through these exercises, and you want to do that in partnership with the folks that are in those roles. So I also want to maybe throw out there for consideration and maybe discussion. And again, I apologize because I know we've had this discussion, but is there any benefit of maybe separating so slightly that expeditions, again, private group, they can kind of, you can do your thing, but that the commission maybe focus more on city facilities that are well within their scope of purview, and spend some time encouraging the council to support and encourage their staff to participate in these training opportunities. So again, just sharing some feedback that I've heard recently on some things, and wanted to open that to the commission, and sorry to take up this time here. But just wanted to throw that out and see what happens at that point.
Yeah, I'll let Russ speak, and then I'll respond with my thoughts as well.
And I think there's a lot to respond to there, actually. You know, a few months ago, this commission asked a few of the commissioners to separate out from the commission to form its own citizens advisory group, which has occurred. I mean, barrier-free Flagstaff is a real thing now. Barrier-free Flagstaff has a meeting both with community leaders as well as city leaders to actually kind of promote the idea of accessibility expeditions. And those are happening. They really are. Hence in the letter, or in the draft of the letter that I wrote, I actually noted that this commission would reserve the right to conduct accessibility audits in the future. It is something that this commission has done in the past, pre-pandemic. So I don't know. I mean, barrier-free Flagstaff has a lot of city staff involved, and frankly, the mayor is involved with barrier-free Flagstaff. So I would encourage us to consider these as dual opportunities, an opportunity to do two different things, both in the interest of helping to make for a more accessible and inclusive community.
Rachel, go ahead, and then I'll.
I think that, first of all, Russ, I'm not sure that you should have included city staff on that until this commission voted for that letter to go forward. You're giving the appearance that the commission has already voted on it and accepted it. And that's one of the things I think that we will be doing today. That's the first thing. The second thing is, if you're asking for BFF to go in and do an audit with a city facility, but then Susan is going to do the training for an internal audit within each city department itself, it's being very pedantic. And I think it's time consuming for these people. You know, the city departments have to find the time to do these things. They have to schedule it, and the city is very busy. Every time I'm in City Hall, these employees are extremely busy. Some of the city departments are not getting back to me for sometimes up to a week. And it's not because they're ignoring me. It's because they're busy. And so I think that the duality and not clearly delineating which should do which, I think is a little bit pedantic. And the other thing is there are some new ADA guidelines that have come down, Susan, correct me, but within the last week, that are promoting more internal audits anyway.
Not necessarily ADA guidelines, but the movement within people that have the ADA coordination role is really trying to make sure that the transition plans that were part of the 2010 requirements that city, municipal, and state governments actually put together transition plans for facilities to improve their architectural barriers. That is what the city's missing. And I think it would be more beneficial overall to get to a more inclusive environment for us to encourage the city to start a transition plan so that there's structure of how internal audits would be conducted. There's nothing wrong with barrier-free Flagstaff trying to do awareness around these barriers, because that's an awareness not only to the city officials, but also the public, right? And that's really where the purpose of these expeditions started, was helping students at NAU understand disability barriers by not doing simulations. So the previous kind of approach to understanding barriers was for someone without a disability to get in a wheelchair and try to navigate around spaces, which is not necessarily considered best practices anymore. And so doing expeditions where there's people with and without disabilities going around together, it's an awareness activity that has great benefit. It is only an NAU practice. It is not a nationwide practice. It is not, something that has been adopted yet. Yes, there's been some research out of NAU about these expeditions. It was published in 2023. So it's a very new, very recent. I am as a separate entity, so speaking from Welcomed Here, I think it's great that there are people involved that want to help bring more awareness to the barriers in communities that exist. From a commissioner standpoint, I truly believe that the city should start doing these transition plans so that they are in compliance with ADA when there are potential lawsuits or other things that happen or may happen in the upcoming months, years under the new federal administration. So we need to be prepared, and that's what the transition plans were designed for, is to help have the collected information in a very organized way. There is guidelines for municipalities to follow for those transition plans, and there's model cities that would be really easy to look at what they did and replicate it here in Flagstaff. So that by following that model, it cuts back on the time that it would take to try to get it going because we'd be following practices that already exist. We actually are lucky. We do have in the city of Flagstaff a former ADA manager for the Texas State Parks and Wildlife who conducted all of the transition planning for the state of Texas, which includes the city of Austin, which the city of Austin is one of the kind of model programs that are shared with cities who are interested in starting their transition planning. And so they're here in Flagstaff and able to speak the transition plans if that is something that the commission and the city decide to move towards.
I know that Susan and Stacy and I also have been talking about as welcomed home, Susan putting
Here.
on welcomed here. I always say welcomed home.
I know.
Hat for that. Susan is willing to get a group of city employees together sometime in June, and she's willing to do an ADA audit training, not an extensive one, but one that will at least give them the idea of what ADA is, how ADA moves forward, and what they can do to start doing their internal audits. And so I would like to hear thoughts about that, first of all.
From me or from the commission?
The commission, sorry. Put your commissioner hat back on, ma'am.
Thank you.
This is Bashir speaking. Is that training also open to commission members? Because I don't know anything about the auditing process, but I think if we could attend all at our own time or whenever the trainings are offered, it can give us more insight to kind of help us help the city move forward. So I would be really interested in attending the training if possible.
Yes, they would be open.
Okay.
Russ, is your hand still up?
Yeah, I'm trying to get it to go up and down, but yeah, I'd be interested in attending that training as well. I would like to point out, and I think Susan has kind of started to point this out, accessibility expeditions and accessibility audits really have two different purposes. Audits are more about ADA and ADA compliance. Audits are more, or expeditions are more about universal design, frankly. And a lot of times those two ideas run together, but not always. So I don't know, barrier-free Flagstaff is a real thing. It's happening. Expeditions are going to be happening in the community. I believe expeditions are going to be happening in city facilities. I would like to see both expeditions and audits happen over the course of time, both at city facilities and other community sites as well.
Russ, I'm going to say this. BFF is a private entity, so the commission can't tell you what to do. I think that we're here today. I'm going to make 3 different motions here in a moment, but I think that If BFF wants to do that, that's completely fine. This commission makes recommendations to city council, and I will be asking for us to move forward with the audits being done through the commission. If BFF chooses to do another audit, you can work with city people to get that done. But I'm going to ask you to leave the commission's name off of all of your stuff until the commission can make a vote, which I'm hoping that we will do today. And then if BFF decides to do it and the city wants auditing done, then we can't stop that. But I want the commission to make the choice. Do we want to support what we went back in September and said that we were going to support audits? Or do we want to put forward your letter to support BFF? And I'm not saying that one is right and one is wrong. I'm not saying that. We are all working for disability and inclusion access. And I don't think that we can go wrong with anything, but this commission needs to choose what it supports. Susan, and then
Yeah.
Elida.
I just want to truly point out that until a transition plan is created, audits or expeditions do not matter. You have to have the plan in place to have a structured, systematic process of doing audits or doing, having the expeditions done. But what I'm suggesting today is that we write a different letter that encourages the city to start the transition plan. And in that transition plan, then we can continue to have the support of BFF in providing the awareness piece that would be very helpful, but train the city on how to conduct their internal audits so that they're able to do the transition plan in the way that it's designed to be conducted. And ultimately, through both the transition plan and having a citizens group, and even having Welcomed Here doing more trainings for organizations, we will be a more inclusive place. Because I agree, inclusion is the point, and how we get there is going to be lots of different pathways. But as a commission making a recommendation, I truly think that we need to put the expeditions and audits aside and focus on the transition plan piece first.
Elida, go ahead.
Good morning, and I'm sorry to all of you for calling in late this morning. I had some unexpected things happen. Yeah, I just wanted to bring up, I don't know that this is an either or discussion. With BFF, we're really just looking for approval and support of our efforts. Not to say that it's a commission activity, but just to sort of back us with the city to say that allowing us access to the city facilities and allowing us to provide feedback would be helpful in supporting the cause that the commission also works towards. And I think these two things really can work in tandem with each other. I guess maybe I dialed in at an awkward time. I'm not quite understanding the issue with BFF looking to gain support from the city.
I don't know that the issue is with the city. The issue is that back in September, this commission had agreed to form an informal group to work on expeditions. And there was a clear delineation who was going to do the training, who was going to be involved. Of course, we wanted the community involved, but straightforward, it was the expeditions. And then it's changed to, it was audits, and then it changed to expeditions. And like I said before, we can't tell BFF not to do an expedition. The commission has to consider, is it worth our time to put 2 letters forward supporting both things? When in reality, this commission decided that we wanted to do audits. And now Susan, who was going to do the training, has identified that potentially we need to actually do transition planning before we do either audits or expeditions. And so Russ, I'm gonna let you speak. Go ahead.
Yeah, I guess I might disagree with Susan, that before an expedition can happen, the city needs to have a transition plan in place. That transition planning can take a long time to occur. And then, quite frankly, at last month's commission meeting, Susan, you suggested that a letter go out from this commission to the city council in support of accessibility expedition.
So to clarify before Rashira jumps in, yes, I suggested writing a letter that discusses conducting accessibility expeditions in the community of Flagstaff, not specifically to city facilities, but in the community of Flagstaff, that we are acknowledging BFF's presence and encourage, obviously the same goal of more awareness to what is accessible and what isn't, and not just from that architectural barrier perspective. Between last month's meeting and this month's meeting, the Arizona Disability coordinators meetings, the ADA coordinator meeting occurred, and it was stated in that meeting that transition plans should be the primary focus for any city in the state of Arizona to get those plans in place. So new information has been shared. And so it's not saying BFS shouldn't exist or shouldn't be doing what they are set and intending to do. What I'm suggesting is that we take a step back from having any formal letter going to the city encouraging one thing or another, and instead encouraging the establishment of the transition plan, and making it very clear that we support the establishment of a transition plan, which will include having to conduct audits at some point. It doesn't say that BFF can't start doing their own expeditions that will help bring more awareness to the community. But I do agree with Rachel, and that overloading the city with lots of different potential audits is going to be time consuming for them and distracting from trying to get the transition plan established and going. There's nothing wrong with BFFs just, starting their expeditions. Rashira had her hand up, Rachel.
Okay, and then I think Stacy has something to
No,
add.
I'm good.
Oh, you don't?
Yeah, no,
Okay.
she clarified.
I just, excuse me, I have a quick question. Because I don't know who was speaking before. I like what they said. It's not a either or, but it's a and in both. Do we have, and I'm new to the commission, so please correct me. Do we have a specific strategic development plan for the commission and something that we can lay out that kind of builds out like Q1, Q2, Q3 goals so we can show kind of like our processes? Like we want to establish the internal audit system, we want to do the exhibitions, and then we would like to establish like an official advisory committee or community focused advisory committee. That way we're kind of putting it all into one email, and so we're not leaving out either, but we're kind of showing them a plan of our process. And so they're kind of just like in the know-how of where we're at. And I'm just thinking this way because in research, we do this a lot. We have development plans like in year one, we were like, we're going to do research. And in year two, we're going to do like community engagement meetings and different things like that. And I think maybe structuring it in that way in a letter that's not so much information overload can include everything that we would like to do and kind of officially give the city like our plan of action for the next year or for the next quarter or however we want to frame it.
Susan, can I speak to that? Rashira, we have a yearly, we did it in the summer last year. I think we're planning it for August this year. We have a yearly meeting for this commission where we set out goals. We have never done quarterly goals just because some things can be achieved in that quarter and then other things cannot. They need to be carried over. So it may be something that that we could do. I know that you're a researcher. I know that you're studying for your master's. And so bring it to the commission. Let's talk about it. Let's see if it's something that we can use and maybe if it helps. So I'm going to encourage you to come with that when we have our next planning meeting. Like I said, I think in August.
June or July.
Oh, June or July. I'm sorry. So I would encourage you to come forward with that and then we can discuss it. And if it works, then we'll decide what we're going to do for the next 4 quarters.
Thank you.
There was one other thing I wanted to say. It escapes me. It went in one ear and out the other. Is there any more discussion? If not, then I am going to make several motions. The first motion is that I would like to pass a motion that Susan do the training with city employees. And as part of that training, we start talking about a transition planning portion. And this commission back those transition plannings.
So if I could just make one clarification to your motion.
Mm-hmm.
I would ask that you would move for the commission to recommend to the city council that Susan do the training for city employees and talk about because we can't direct staff. You can't direct staff.
Right.
So we need to make sure that we're submitting that recommendation to the council. Just want to clarify.
Okay, so I'm going to pass a motion that we send a letter to city council about transition planning and Susan doing training, including that transition planning. And Susan, I'm going to throw the ball to your court to make that letter if it passes.
I love that version.
I would like to make, I would like to alter that motion that these are 2 separate things.
Okay.
I believe as a commission, we should be recommending the city take a priority of creating a transition plan with this new risk manager who is being hired, and that the commission helps support the transition plan. That is the model in many other municipalities, is that whoever's the ADA manager coordinator works with an identified advisory group, which could be our commission, to create the transition plan. And then the separate factor of that is that Jen Brown has asked me to provide a training for facility based on our existing trainings that occur. I have responded to Jen, letting her know that our training is in some adjustment period so that we wouldn't have a new training ready to go until June. And so that is the training that would be created and available to any commissioner, any city official, any public person who's interested in having that training. But that they're 2 separate things. And I'm not sure we even need to provide to the city the recommendation for Welcome Tier to be the training organization, because that conversation's already begun. Jen has already reached out to provide that training.
Sarah, go ahead.
That's what I was just gonna clarify, was it doesn't sound like the commission needs to really talk anything about regarding what Susan's already doing with the city, because that's already in motion and something completely separate from the commission, versus making the recommendation that Susan's saying about, like, in our approach to the city is making the recommendation to the commission or to the council to move into that plan, so that and it can take those other things like working with the accessibility audits and expeditions, something really clear and concise so that it's not, convoluted. Am I understanding that correct? Okay. Thank you. Just asking clarification.
So Susan, clarify for us what the motion will be.
Sorry, I'm trying to think of all that phrasing that needs to be done. The motion would be for the.
Hold on.
Oh.
I'm going to withdraw my motion. And then when you speak, if you'd like to set that, you can. Or if you'd like to make the motion, you can.
Okay. So I'm making a motion that the commission writes a recommendation to the city to encourage a transition plan to be created with the new risk manager position that has ADA coordination as part of the job duties.
I'll second that. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Anyone else? Anyone dissenting or abstaining? All right, it passes with a vote of 4. Susan, do you mind doing that letter?
No, I don't mind writing that letter.
Okay. And maybe what we can do is next meeting, Stacy can send it out before, everybody can read it, and then if we like it, then we can send it to council. Is that okay?
Rachel, this is Russ.
Yes.
Or Susan. I lost most of that motion because I lost my internet. Could you repeat the motion for me?
I can help. I don't have
I'm
it.
like, thanks, Stacy.
I don't have it verbatim, but I can help there. So the motion was for the commission to write a letter of recommendation to the city council that encourages a transition plan be created in coordination with the new risk manager / ADA who is the ADA coordinator and has those job duties assigned to him. Did I
So
catch
basically,
that?
yep, basically requesting a
Transition plan.
A transition plan in partnership with the new risk manager. That I feel like that's what we're asking for, is that this new risk manager and the commission work to create a transition plan for the city of Flagstaff. And that's our recommendation to the council.
And Russ, that did pass. So Susan will prepare a letter.
And I would vote yes on that. I don't know, you already voted yes.
Okay. And then because we're doing this, I'm going to ask to table the motion to approve Russ's letter, or do anything else until the transition planning is clearer.
Yep.
And then we revisit that at a later meeting.
And I would like to add that I agree. I think we need to hold off on any additional letters to the city council. But I fully, as an individual commissioner, as well as my other hat of welcomed here, support barrier-free Flagstaff helping our community be more aware. I do encourage trying not to overload our city facilities while we are trying to establish this transition plan.
Any questions? I mean, any comments about that? Stacy is making a recommendation. Give me just a minute. Oh, so put that off. Okay, so we were going to do a presentation on April 22nd in front of City Council, showing that the commission would like, bless you, the commission would like to support ADA audits. However, I think that also we should put off until we have a clearer plan about the transition planning and that sort of thing. And so I will put that off, but we will keep that in the back of our mind that we would like to do a presentation for City Council as well.
If I could add a comment to that,
please.
So BFF has reached out requesting a presentation with the council, which it will be occurring on April 22nd. So I think it's important for the commission to understand that, they're going to be presenting their focus, their plan, their mission, their focus there as a private group, and they'll be requesting that the council, support those endeavors. And so I just want to make sure, and I see that Russ's hand up, I suspect that he was going to make similar comments. But Russ, maybe part of that comment is that they're not working in conflict with the commission in any way, shape, or form. Again, they're a private group. They're here to share their messaging with the council and on their efforts. And so I want it to be really clear here that there's no discouragement of that effort. And I think that the commission shouldn't take a position on BFF presenting to the council to share their vision and the work that they're doing. Because again, like we've said, these are all very good things. They're all wonderful for the community, and yeah, I'll leave it at that.
Russ, go ahead.
Right. So again, I think we need to make sure there is a distinction between barrier-free Flagstaff and the Commission on Inclusion and Adaptive Living. Of course, there's overlap because Keith and I are both involved. The mayor is involved, obviously, as our liaison to this commission. The mayor is involved with barrier-free Flagstaff. So there's some overlap. But these are just two distinct entities. So yeah, barrier-free Flagstaff will be presenting to the city council on what its mission is and what accessibility expeditions are on April 22nd.
Right. So I think, Russ, the concern is the letter as you've written it cannot, you've disseminated it to a bunch of people, Metro Plan, Mountain Line, and I understand all those are part of barrier-free Flagstaff, but now the assumption is that that letter has the commission backing, and at this point in time, it does not.
Well, Rachel, in response to that, I think we have 19 members of barrier-free Flagstaff, and before I was going to submit that potential letter to this commission on behalf of barrier-free Flagstaff, I had to have barrier-free Flagstaff approve that letter as potentially being sent from this commission to the city council.
So I'll make a suggestion, and because you're a private entity, you take this for what it's worth, but I would ask for help from a few of those people, simply because now I think that there is the illusion isn't the right word, but it's all I can come up with. There's the illusion that this commission has backed BFF. The way that that letter is presented, that's what it appeared to me, and that's how it appeared to one other city staff. And so I just want to make sure that you understand that we're not saying that we're not going to at some point address your letter. I just think it needs to be done after the transition planning.
So Rachel, yeah, and quite honestly, you were not at that much commission meeting, but Susan suggested that I draft a letter for this commission to send to the city council on behalf of barrier-free Flagstaff. So that's what I did. And then, like I said, we have 19 members of barrier-free Flagstaff. I could not send any letter on behalf of barrier-free Flagstaff without having their approval. If you read the email that introduced the letter, it says that right in the letter. This is a potential letter that might be sent by the commission to the city council.
Susan, you're next, but I'll just let you know, Russ, that my perception and one other person's perception is that this was going out with the intention that we had already backed this. And it makes this commission look bad. And I think you need to remember you're wearing two hats. And so it's very important to remember there can't be an overlap. If you're making it look like the commission has backed something, but we have not voted on it, then you're giving that misperception. And my feeling is that you gave that misperception in this letter. And so I'm simply, as a person, asking you to please get some of your trusted people. It sounded like Elida gave some recommendations for some changes, and I don't remember who, but get a trusted set of those people and have those people help you if you're going to push forward a letter that you want the commission's support in, because right now it looks like the commission has supported you. Susan, go ahead.
Sorry. I just wanted to again reiterate that between last month's meeting and this month's meeting, things have changed in the ADA world. And we want to be adaptable, and we want to make sure that we are not reacting to things. I appreciate Rashir's comment that we are being very clear and focused in what we need to be doing moving forward. So yes, I did ask for that letter. However, things have changed and we really need to think differently about this.
Michelle, go ahead.
Yes. So as I read the letter, and I can understand both sides. I see why that might be the perception, but as I read the letter, I did not get the perception that we had approved the letter as of yet. I got the perception that we were going to be discussing it at today's meeting. That's just my take on it.
Okay.
Or just do, or whatever. I mean, we could
Okay.
do the letter, you could table it, you could, I mean, there's lots of different things you want to do, you could do. But yes, a motion would be necessary.
Okay, so I'm going to make a motion that we table the letter until we have until we have figured out the transition planning and we can bring the new risk management employee in and talk to them as a commission. And so that's my motion. Do I hear a second?
I can second it.
I will. This is Michelle. I will third it, I guess.
Okay, all in favor, please say aye.
I would ask for any discussion.
Aye.
Oh, is there any other discussion before we vote? I'm sorry. All right, those in favor, please say aye.
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 We have 4 ayes and any opposing?
This is Russ. I vote nay.
Okay, and any dissenting? So 4 ayes and 1 nay, and we passed that. All right, any further discussion regarding all of this? Okay, moving on, let's go ahead and.
Michelle just raised her hand.
Oh, Michelle, go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, I was actually typing it, but then you asked, so I was like, well, I'll just say it. I am, however, in favor of tabling the letter until we make the recommendation for, I think it's a smart move to lay the foundation and have that all in place before moving forward any other direction. So I'm in favor of that.
Awesome. All right, anything else? Okay, let's talk about, and we will be voting on this today, extending the meeting in June or July for our yearly planning session. And I'll let Stacy take this because she has a better idea of what we're gonna do.
Yep. Before I jump into that, I think Russ raised his hand perhaps with on the last item, maybe.
Russ, was that your hand still up or do you have something to add to the previous conversation?
Do we have a timeline for how long that motion will be tabled? I mean, typically, Robert's Rules of Order would tell us that there's a timeline when you table a motion.
Yes, that is true. When you table, it has to be picked up at the next meeting unless you determine a date at which it will come back.
So
That's my
Russ,
bad.
can you pass another motion as a commissioner about?
I'm sorry, what was that, Rachel?
And telling us as a commissioner how long you would like to wait to revisit?
The table motion, it will come back as an action item at our April meeting.
Unless we receive another motion to determine a date
Yes.
certain. So it's up to the commission to decide. But yes, I can put it on as an action item next month. We can talk about it, take whatever action we want
Do
to.
we know when risk management is coming in?
Like I said, they just concluded interviews on Friday. The transition process, if they were to make an offer, could be anywhere from 30 to 90 days.
So in light of the fact that we're thinking about doing our summer meeting in June or July, I would like to pass a motion that we table it until July.
Motion to postpone would be better.
Okay. Motion to postpone. Further discussion?
There's motion to postpone action until.
Until July.
Okay.
Do I have a second?
I will second.
And all those in favor?
Aye.
Rashida? All right, any nays?
I vote nay. This is Russ.
I
Okay.
also vote nay. This is Michelle.
Okay, said nay, everybody else said yay. All right, it passes with a motion. Actually, there's six of us. There's six of us.
Oh, yes. Well, it's
It's me, Rashira, Sarah, and Susan,
okay.
and then Russ and Michelle.
Apologies.
That's
I was
okay.
trying to keep up with who was.
That's okay. I'm watching the dots.
Thank you.
All right, so it passes 4-2, and we will revisit this during the July's meeting. Yeah. Russ, is your hand up? Would you like to speak again about this?
Yeah, so have we determined that the July meeting is our extended meeting?
That's what we're voting on now.
Next. No, we haven't.
That's what we're talking about next.
So either way, if the July meeting is a regular meeting, we'll discuss this at the July meeting. And if it's an extended meeting, we'll also discuss it at the July meeting. Is that correct?
Correct. So based on the conversation last month was that we would extend our regular meeting in June or July to hold the planning portion. So we'd still have our regular meeting with all the regular action updates, business. And then once that meeting has concluded, we would then move into a planning meeting immediately after, if that makes sense.
So it will be
Either in June or July.
in July. And it will be discussed in the July meeting, whether we do the extended meeting in June or July. It will be discussed in July.
So I guess we have determined that we will be holding a July meeting. In the past, this commission has not held July meetings.
That's up for the commission to decide. I wasn't part of the commission back in last July, so I was not aware of that based on the conversation last month. The commission wanted to discuss extending the June or July meeting.
I
For
think
planning.
that is based on city employees, Russ, and so because that's their break, and honestly, they deserve a break. But if we have two city employees sitting here and they aren't sure yet, I think that we kind of need to roll with it. And if we don't have a July meeting, it gets pushed out until August.
I will be.
Well, then you would have
June, July.
then Rachel, your motion would have to say that. But I'm all for having a July meeting. I just know in the past that has been something that this commission has not always done.
I will be available in July. If it comes down to whether staff will be available or not, I don't have plans in July.
I will be at camp for June, July.
We
and
did
August.
meet last July. We had a meeting on July 24th.
We'll make sure to
So-
email you guys regarding.
To me, that's standard because that was my first full year.
So we will discuss this again in July. Any further discussion? All right, we're going to move on to consideration and action on extending the meeting in June or July for planning session. What works for everybody?
That's gonna be tough for me because I'll probably be at camp through
Yeah,
June, July. and
that's okay.
August, but
Elida can step in for you though.
I'll make sure to email all three of you regarding everything that's going on with it.
Okay. Perfect. Does anyone have, let's see when the meetings are. Give me just a moment.
It would be June 25th or July 23rd.
Susan, when are you going to be with your students in other countries?
I'm available both of those days.
Okay.
I'm also available both of those days. I'm sure.
And the proposal was to extend the meeting an additional 2 hours. So we'd have our regular meeting from 11 to 1, and then 1 to 3 would be planning. If we end our commission meeting early, obviously we can start the planning meeting early.
Does June 25th work for everybody?
It should, yes.
June works for me better.
I will make sure to email all three of you.
Sorry, who said that?
That was Michelle.
What did you say?
June works best for me, yeah.
Okay. So I'm hearing for Susan, I, and Michelle, that works. What about everybody else?
Yes.
Sarah says yes. Rashira says yes. All right, we're gonna go with the June 23rd date.
No, that's not gonna work for me because I'll be heading home from camp, but I'm pretty sure I can squeeze in for a little bit with you guys.
Okay, Elida can pick up.
I got you guys.
Okay. All right. Let me pull up my agenda. I apologize. All right, we are moving on to staff reports. Mayor Daggett, are you here?
She was not able to.
Okay, do you have anything?
I do not have anything on
Okay.
her behalf.
Lorena had to step away. And so Joseph, anything for NACOP?
Yes, actually, we actually did have our meeting yesterday. Russ, you weren't able to make it, which we totally understand that. We have our job fair, and Michelle, you can remind me on this, April 18th at 8 to 11:30.
And where is it at?
It's at my former high school, Coconino.
The best school.
Yes, it is. Thank you. Yes, it is. Anything else, Michelle, that we covered yesterday?
Yes. So as the Northern Arizona Community Practice team, we wanted to be able to participate as that group in that job fair that Coconino High School is putting on. So on behalf of that team, we are going to be performing mock interviews, and it's going to be presented that it's from our team, the Northern Arizona Community Practice team, as well as Coconino invited us to join their summer program where we can have vendors, the different vendors for vocational rehab, speak to students and or do certain presentations. So we're throwing around ideas as far as that is concerned. And I think that's it, Joseph, if I remember correctly. Did I miss
Yes.
anything?
And I think that's it. And I also wanted to do one more thing. I actually did get a silver medal for my skiing competition the other day.
Good job.
It was a very, very good one that I went through. But other than that, I think we covered everything at our meeting yesterday. And Russ, I absolutely did miss you talking about sports and all that. All that.
You're the sports guy, Russ.
He is. Yeah, so I think that's everything that we covered from our meeting yesterday, unless Michelle, you have anything else to add through it.
No, I think that's it.
Cool.
All right, moving on. Jamie and I do not have reports. And Elida, do you have some information you'd like to share?
I do not. With my work schedule, I'm no longer able to attend the NACOP meetings.
Okay. All right, so let's move on to information items to and from commission members. Anything that we need to talk about? All right, let's talk about agenda items for our next meeting, which is April 23rd.
Bring up our working calendar. So we have another full meeting. Based on today's discussion, we'll have that transition plan letter. We then have 4 discussion items. We've got Rebecca Sayers from our Parks, Recreation, Open Space and Events coming to talk about hours of operation at our recreation facilities. We're going to revisit therapeutic recreation. We thought that that would be a good combination with Rebecca already being here. Reggie is available to come and discuss code compliance. And then we've had a request from the council for some engagement with our team that is undergoing our land availability and suitability study and code analysis project. So we'll be hearing from that team with an update, and they're going to be seeking some information from the commission at the request of council. That's all I have.
All right. I do just want to remind everybody that when we have city department heads here, I think that we need to be respectful. We need to remember that they have cut out of their time to come here. And kind of being aggressive does not win races. It does not win people over. And so I just want to remind everybody, please be very tactful when we have city department heads in here and we're talking to them. And with that, are there any other questions? Right, we are going to adjourn at 12:59. I will see all of you April 11th. And thank you to everybody that RSVP'd.
Right.
I believe that we have a
It's April
full
23rd.
commission now.
Meeting, right?
Keith probably
She
will
said
not
April 11th.
because, well, Keith doesn't, but I think Keith will RSVP. So we have all 7 of you. And I look forward to meeting all of you. And you can all meet the ladies that have worked very hard on this. Thanks, guys.
Oh, and Rachel, before we go, Sarah Dorman was specially recognized in the RSK newsletter.
Oh.
That was really
It was
nice,
just a
Sarah.
staff spotlight. It was just a staff spotlight.
That's exciting,
Nice.
nevertheless.
It was really
Congratulations,
nice, Sarah.
Thank you. Thank you, Russ.
Congratulations. Bye, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye. And bear down.
Have a good one, everybody.
Bear down, she said.
Mm.